Hey everybody, Ty here. Hope everyone is doing well. So, I know it's Monday. Some people really struggle with the Monday blues. Sometimes I do too, I can't lie. But one thing that I will say is the fact that I come with good news on this video actually. I think a lot of you will be happy to hear what I have to say in this one because the heat wave there's an end in sight pretty much. We just got to bear with it for a little longer. I know it's not fun. It definitely isn't fun in my case, but you know, all bad things come to an end too, just like good things. But anyways, though, before we get into that, we also have to take a look back because some of you might have missed it. A good number of you tuned in to last night's stream, but it's a pretty busy day yesterday. Almost 300 severe reports, 5 tornado reports. We were live for just about all of these except for this one over towards Oregon. But it was a pretty busy night here. We ended up watching this big line of storms that would end up going through South Dakota into Iowa and then heading right into parts of the Illinois Iowa state line here. There was also a lot of action over here towards Minnesota as well, towards the Twin Cities region. But we also got to watch a really cool supercell that popped up over here that was a cyclic that dropped multiple tornadoes in South Dakota here. Almost a little small scale tornado outbreak. There's probably at least several different tornado touchdowns that we ended up seeing on stream. And who knows, there might have even been more in between, right? Between this point, between the state lines, or the tri-state line, actually, I would say, over here towards Minnesota, South Dakota, and Iowa here. There's a pretty notable wind damage that's ongoing here. There were a lot of power outages. So far, I haven't heard any reports of injuries here at the moment. I've been keeping an eye out, but I haven't seen anything as of yet, which is probably the best news that we've gotten so far. But pretty busy day yesterday. Today is going to be a far cry from that, from the looks of it here. We already have our showers and severe thunderstorms ongoing over here towards the Midwest here. Are a couple of severe warnings here and there, but nothing of major note as of right now. Of course, as we know, during the summertime, things can ramp up pretty quickly. So after this day, really, as we get into tomorrow and beyond that point, we have a pretty low severe weather risk here. Not even much of a tornado threat. It's kind of a non-zero day. You still got to watch those nonetheless, though. But predominant threat with the marginal risk tomorrow being wind and hail across the northeast and parts of the western high plains here as well. As far as day 3 is concerned, not really much to talk about there. Just a general thunderstorm risk at the moment. Wouldn't expect too much as we go through the 4 through 8 day outlook. Pretty much has been the same old song and dance. Very few times have we seen the potential too low pop up. It's just been predictability too low. So kind of hard to get a read on what the atmosphere is doing with model data alone. You just kind of have to really do a lot more what we call nowcasting in the weather community. But overall, we haven't really had too much to worry about today when it comes to storms, and I would anticipate that to continue. But the real topic, of course, is going to be, of course, our heat. We did get a look at that when we looked at the hazard map, those areas that were in the orange. And I'll go ahead and actually show it to you again. The areas in the orange and the purple, those are excessive heat warnings and heat advisories that are pretty widespread across the central and eastern parts of the U.S. here. We are going to, however, be getting a break from this finally. And the catalyst behind that break that even shows up on both our models here, which is really the best part out of all of this, is the trough that we're going to be seeing here in just a moment. I'm still pulling this data up here from the Euro. It's taking a little longer than usual. So if I were to go ahead and put both of these into motion here, you can see things really start to evolve as we get towards the back half of the week. You can start to see this trough beginning to sneak its way in by the time we get towards the weekend. By next week, the pattern fully shifts here, and we finally start to see a break in this heat, and also a chance for increased shower and thunderstorm activity across the board here. So it's going to be a pretty big change once we get out of this heat wave, or heat cycle, as I would say, because we've had a couple of notable heat blasts here, and this has probably been the worst one so far. But it looks like the end is finally here as we get towards the first week of August. And I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure a lot of you are as well. As I mentioned before, with that trough coming in, there's going to be an increased chance of shower and thunderstorm activity as well. So we're going to be keeping an eye out for those short waves right here. You can see them being plentiful. What we're going to be mainly looking at in the short term is going to be more of the summertime setup. As we go further and further along, we'll start to see a little bit more along the lines of maybe some organized events as we get into the middle part of August. Maybe we'll see what happens with that there. And then by the time we get towards the end of the model run, it looks like we start to level off once again. But even so, this is a decent way to start out our August. Maybe a little bit more sloppy outside, a little bit wetter, but nonetheless, do you want to deal with rain showers and 80 degrees, or do you want to deal with 90s and triple digits with high humidity and no rain? Choice is yours. It's really your opinion that I'm asking for there. But in regards to the temperatures, and this is going to be the best part, is really more or less just watching these begin to drop off here. We see a notable difference. We're seeing more along the lines of triple digits, 110s here. But again, as we get into next week here, watch how we start to see those triple digits begin to fade. We still see some areas where we're getting into the 110s here. And keep in mind, even though we're going to see those temperatures begin to drop off and be below average, it's still summertime, so it's still going to be plenty warm out here. We're still going to have high humidities as well and dew points to go with it. But the dangerous heat indexes that we've been seeing where we're at 105, 110 degrees, we're not going to see those for too much longer, at least in the short term. Now, in the long term, we do have a little bit more questions there. I would like to think that based off what I've been seeing in long-range guidance, that things are only going to improve from here. But keep in mind, summer doesn't end until really late September, so we could still get some of the hottest air of the season during the beginning of meteorological fall, which is September 1st. So keep your eyes open across the board here. In regards to our severe weather setups, there's still going to be plenty of moisture to work with. The lower temperatures actually might be somewhat better for severe weather in all modes of it, but again, there are many more parameters that pour into a severe weather setup than just temperatures and, of course, moisture. So, of course, with that trough coming in, what's going to be most notable here is seeing the big boom in severe weather potential here. So we're going to actually do a little thing here where we'll have the euro here on the main part of the screen, because this is the only model that has this particular parameter on it. It's called lightning flash density. And the higher the flash density, the more likely there are to be thunderstorms, of course. Pretty rudimentary, but it's a good model to use from time to time. So let's go ahead and combine that with our cape here. This is from the GFS on the bottom left corner. So obviously, seeing the bright pink colors, you kind of know what the deal is here, especially as we go through the first couple of weeks of August. It gets pretty busy with that trough that moves in here. So that predominant pattern really starts to pick up, particularly around the southeast. And then as we go even further along, it gets a little bit more active towards the northern states once again, and then over towards the western plains as well. So a lot of shower and storm activity expected, which is why you see all the green lines on our thumbnail here. As far as the amount of energy that we have available, it's going to be pretty bountiful as well, especially as we get into the 7 to 10 day range. That's when things really start to ramp up. Look at the amount of cape that we have available at times. We're easily getting into that 4,000 plus joules per kilogram. So severe weather potential is not going to be going anywhere despite the cool down though. So it's kind of the trade-off, but at least we'll be a little bit more comfortable outside. So last but not least here, we're going to go ahead and take the euro off the screen here and basically show just what we have left over from the GFS model. So we're going to go ahead and do this one manually, and it's going to be pretty obvious what we end up seeing here. For the next few days, as we get into the very end of the month and into the start of August, we're going to see an increase in its shower and storm activity, mainly over towards the Ohio Valley and the Midwestern states and the Central Plains. By the time we get towards the very end of the weekend here, we'll start to see a little bit more in the way of activity out towards the eastern half and the southeastern states as well. And then things really start to pick up by the time we get towards the 4th and beyond here. Look at that. Start to really begin to take shape here. notable low pressure system seems to be taking shape by the time we get towards next week here, right around this time. And then as we go even further along, we start to see even more activity beginning to pop up over here towards the deep south. There has been talk of some models showing some tropical potential, but at this range though, obviously by the time we get past 10 days, not a lot of confidence to really be had. Really only 1 or 2 models even shows any sort of weather model data in general towards the or really past the 10-day range here, so can't really put a lot of merit into that. But in either case though, weather looks like it's going to be a little bit better depending on your take on things, but either way, looks like at least in my opinion, I would say it's a minor improvement. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button, of course, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I appreciate you guys being here as always. It's a little bit of a quicker video this time around, and we'll have the tropical outlook tomorrow. Until then, everyone take care and have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday.